When we start this preparation, we should be crystal clear in our mind why we want to get into the civil services. I always believe that I was not being able to give my 100%. It's human to make mistakes, but It's criminal and an insult to yourself to make the same mistake twice. It's been a strange, long journey, but I'm very glad that I made it.
Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep Spotlight. It's a dream of millions of students to get into the magical list of civil services final results. Some of them make into the final list, but still there are so many students who are unable to crack this exam. And my own experience shows that majority of them could not make into the list because of the lack of proper guidance, proper direction, and authentic suggestion. So under this Spotlight program, we invite the toppers of civil services examination to share their views, share their journey, their experiences, so that the journey of upcoming aspirants becomes smooth. So today we have in this spotlight All India Rank 50, Mr. Abhijit Ray. It was his fourth attempt, and the kind of perseverance he demonstrated, that is well reflected in his final selection. So welcome Abhijit, welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep Spotlight. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Let us start with your own experience. It was your fourth attempt. How could you manage your perseverance and focus?
If I have to say it briefly, I always believed that I was not being able to give my 100% in my first three attempts. Although in my fourth attempt also it was not 100%. There is always room for improvement. But I think that was the major thing that kept me going. And also, sir, I believe that when we start this preparation, we should be crystal clear in our mind why we want to get into the civil services. Since it was very clear in my mind when I started it, because I knew it would be a long journey, that helped me keep myself motivated and inspired all throughout. I think these two reasons would be applicable in my case.
Great. But there are lots of students. They start with great degree of enthusiasm and excitement, with good deal of commitment as well.
Yes, sir.
But after initial, you can say hiccups, some failure, one or two failures, they get distracted. Did it happen to you as well? And how could you manage?
Sir, it's a very interesting question. In my first two attempts, I was doing with a job in Bangalore. I was working in Texas Instruments in Bangalore. So at that time, I very clearly understood. At that time, I thought that I was giving my best. But looking what I know now, I know that that was not my best and I was disillusioned and misguided. But in my third attempt, I had left my job and I had come home and COVID had also struck. So I had got 4 extra months. But since you asked me about whether I wanted to give up or not, so just before my third mains, in December, mains was in January. In December, I realized that anthropology was my optional. I had just changed from electrical to anthropology. And I knew that I will not be able to do it this time because anthropology is not up to the mark. So it was very, very, very depressing for me. And I almost had made up my mind to give up. To give a specific instance, it was late at night one night and I thought that next morning I'm going to tell my parents and my close friends that I'm giving up and I'm going to look for a job again back to Texas Instruments or something. It so happened that that night when I was scrolling through YouTube, I saw the mock interview of one person named Miss Ruchi Bindal, All India Rank 38 in 2019. So she had mentioned her struggle that this was her fifth attempt, 3 attempts, prelims fail, 4th attempt, mains fail, and then 5th attempt, All India Rank 38. So that made me realize that my struggle is actually not a struggle, it's just I'm making it up in my mind. So that helped me to come out of that thing of not giving up, of giving up. So it's been a strange, long journey, but I'm very glad that I made it. So
great. There must be lots of expectations also.
Yes, sir.
How did you handle it? Because you were earning, then you left your job and you started preparing at home. What was the mental setup of Abhijit that time?
When I started my preparation, I was very clear, like I said. Then after my second failure, I realized that no, something is stopping me from giving my full. And obviously it was not possible because I thought it's not fair to the job also that I'm not even able to give my fullest there. I'm not able to give my fullest here also in civil services. So I thought that it's fair to both sides that I leave my job and come. It was a very well-paying, it's one of the dream jobs of the profile that I was in. I did not have much of a problem mentally to come. My mother, even to this day, she keeps telling me that it was a great job. Why did you leave and all? So it took me a little bit convincing for me to convince her to allow me to come home and stay. But once she was convinced, they was very supportive, both parents. So I'm blessed also, sir, that I have such a good support system in the form of my friends and family.
So those who do not have this kind of thing, and what would be your suggestion? Because this is the biggest problem students face. They know the syllabus, they know the material, but they usually succumb to that mental, you can say, expectation. They succumb to that, you can say, emotional thing. How can one, you can say, suppose I'm starting my preparation. First attempt, I could not clear my prelims exam. Obviously, I would be disappointed.
Obviously.
How can I keep myself motivated?
Sir, you have to realize, one has to realize what is it that they made the mistake on. Is it a mistake in their own capability, or is it, and that has to be brutally honest. There is no room for complacency in that assessment. You have to analyze whether it's your own mistake which cost you, or your wrong way of doing things. If it's the wrong way of doing things, then there is chance for improvement. Because it's human to make mistakes, but it's criminal and an insult to yourself to make the same mistake twice. So I think that, realization is what drove me, that I'm making a mistake and I have to not make that mistake the next time. What I saw is that you have to keep constantly improving. That is very important. In all these 4 years, I tried to make sure that I never made the same mistake twice. And number 2, I kept improving every time. That is what drove me. Nothing else.
You are crystal clear and very honest. Great. I was going through your mark sheet. There are students who are unable to write even one page. And you created such an extraordinary essay. You fetched 131 marks.
Right, sir.
How could you do this? And how can I, suppose if I am preparing, write such an extraordinary piece of essay?
Sir, to be very honest, essay was one subject where I did not have much of a problem because I come from ICSE background. So my creative writing skills were anyways good, because my father always made sure that I never took shortcut in English, because whether it's spoken or written, right from my childhood. So he taught me grammar and all these things, alag se, different from what was taught in school. So that helped. And secondly, sir, I think the ability, because this time, as you know, the essay paper was the maker or breaker.
Right.
Because all the 8 essays in a way were philosophical essays. So I think the basic skill of being able to express yourself in simple words, your thoughts in simple words, that came in handy. Anyone who had mastered that, because I talked to other people also who got good marks, even much better than mine. I know a person who got 144 marks this time in essay, and that probably is one of the highest. So what he told me is what I also think is that this time the only skill that actually mattered is the ability to express yourself in simple words. And how does that come? Either you have a historical perspective that you are able to do it, like in my case, or you practice. You practice writing essays. You try not to take the essay paper lightly, because sir, as you know, many people take the essay paper very lightly.
Right.
That GS तो हमने पढ़ लिया है, तो essay का material already available है, तो हम तो कर लेंगे. वहाँ पे बैठ के कुछ बना के हम लिख के आएंगे. ऐसा नहीं होता है सर. But UPSC को भी पता है ये बात. So they try to put bouncers there, and this time they did. And people who got good marks in essay made it. Who did not get good marks in essay, unfortunately, it was a problem for them.
Good. You were from electrical engineering.
Yes, sir.
And it was your optional also.
In my first 2 attempts.
First 2 attempts. Then you you opted for anthropology, right? So, was there any specific reason to select anthropology? First question. And second is, because you have scored again brilliant marks in anthropology optional. And second, how should one select optional?
So I'll answer the second question first, because I first rejected one subject and then selected the other one. I think, sir, a few things that we need to keep in mind. Number 1 is, of course, interest. Secondly, it's the availability of study material in the internet. Because electrical engineering was my option in my first 2 attempts, I was having a problem finding material. because it had already been 1 or 2 years since I had left college. So the college books anyways was not there. I had forgotten stuff. So I needed to, let's say, start from the scratch. So I needed good material I could not find. Thirdly, test series and the regularity of test series. I mean, test series for electrical engineering was available 1 or 2 places, but they were not regular. If you gave them the answer copies, they would not correct it back. And so these basic problems that I faced, and I'm sure many aspirants face it in various parts of their preparation. These 3 things are very important, sir. And I think the most important is interest, because that interest is one thing that will keep pushing you even in times of stress. So one more thing that I'd like to add, which made me reject electrical engineering or per se technical subjects, is that one thing I realized through seeing some videos on YouTube and talking to some seniors is that in technical subjects, the evaluation is sort of punitive. I'll explain that. And in humanity sort of subjects like anthropology and sociology, I can speak for these 2, the evaluation is additive. What I mean by that is, sir, let's say an example of 4-page 20-marker question. 3.5 pages of electrical engineering subject, I write answer, and in the last half page, I make a calculation mistake and I get the final answer wrong. Out of 20 marks, I will get only 3 or 4 because it's a technical paper. It's a technical question where all calculations need to be done. I'll get only 3 or 4. In my anthropology, even if I make mistake in the half page, I'll still somehow manage to get 7, 8. If my answer is exceptional in those 3.5 correct parts, it will be around 8 or 9. So that is the difference, sir. That is a huge difference. Yeah. I mean, in UPSC, sir, as you know, 1 mark, half mark matters, life, and it changes your life. So, I mean, there was no looking back. You asked me why I chose anthropology, sir. At that time, coincidentally, I was reading this book called Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. And for anyone who's read that book will know that it's a very gripping book which talks about evolution and all. And evolution is there in anthropology. That interested me. Secondly, biological anthropology part is there, which again interested me. Interesting topics like marriage is there, which you can relate to your life here.
Right.
It is one of the best decisions that I've made studying anthropology, because it widens your mind, it makes you a better human being, is what I believe.
Great. Abhijit, you are topper. You are proper IAS. Then you must be studying for 20 hours a day?
No, sir. Absolutely.
How many hours one should study?
Sir, this is, I think, I don't think it's the right question, because it should depend on what you want to achieve in that day, not rather that how many hours you want to give. It's like, I have this much amount to study, so I'm going to divide this into this much topic. This topic I'm going to do it today, and I'm going to ensure that I don't take any shortcuts while studying that. That is very important. No matter how much time it takes, no matter how much time it takes for me to gather that correct understanding from a UPSC perspective with interconnected ability to interconnect ideas. That is very important, sir. Because what has happened, I've tried this approach that I'll study 5 hours today and only 5 hours, not more than that, not less. What happens is that, sir, out of those 5 hours, I'll end up wasting 1 hour doing some YouTube or doing some problem, because that used to happen in my initial days. And then I used to take shortcuts just to finish it in 5 hours. So I left that approach. I said, this is the topic I'm going to finish, but I'll promise to myself that I'll not take any shortcuts while studying this. No matter it takes 1 day, 1.5 days, but once I finish it, I should not have to come back to it. I think that was my approach.
Good, beautiful. And now coming back to newspaper part, there are lots of suggestions. 1 newspaper, 2 newspaper. Then again, there is confusion whether one should make notes out of newspaper or not. What was your approach? How many newspapers did you study? And were you making notes as well?
Sir, this is the wrong question to ask me, because I made a mistake in my approach, in the sense that in my 3.5 years of preparation, after I'm talking half year for interview, except the interview part, which was my first interview this time, I have not read any newspaper. But because firstly, in the initial days, it was with a job, so I did not have much time. So I used to depend on compilations and videos on YouTube, daily news analysis and all these things. But in the later days, it was that daily news analysis and compilations se ho raha tha mera, to aur karne ka zarurat nahi pada. But that being said, now I don't think that's the right approach, because if you see 2021, 2022 paper, things from newspapers are being important, and newspaper reading is becoming important. What I have, and I have no experience in this, so this is what I've heard from people, is that reading 1 good newspaper is good, creating daily notes is good out of it, but again, you have to keep supplementing that with material that you get from compilations, is what I understand. But again, that is not my take, because I made a mistake in this newspaper thing. Probably it cost me some one attempt maybe, I think.
Right.
That's my honest, I would not like to misguide people on newspaper reading.
Great. So, आपने कहा कि ऐसे में इस बार यूपीएससी भी बाउंसर्स देती है और लिखना काफ़ी ये पड़ा. एंथ्रोपोलॉजी में भी, ह्यूमैनिटीज में भी लिखने की यू शुड हैव गुड ग्रास्प ओवर राइटिंग स्किल्स.
ऑप्शनल में द डिफरेंस इज यू हैव टू राइट लाइक एन एक्सपर्ट. यू कैन नॉट राइट लाइक अ जनरलिस्ट. जीएस पेपर एंड ऑप्शनल में यही डिफरेंस है. यू हैव टू राइट लाइक एन एक्सपर्ट.
राइट.
अदरवाइज मार्क्स भी आपका जीएस टाइप 100 नंबर ही आएगा.
गुड. तो अब राइटिंग को कैसे डेप्थ में ले जाए? आप कैसे अपनी राइटिंग को, जैसे फिलोसॉफिकल ऐसे हैं, दे स्टार्ट विद कोटेशंस, they start with something abstract, and how did you formulate your ideas to attempt such abstract questions? कहाँ से बच्चे को क्या पढ़ना चाहिए? Is it can you cover it by reading the conventional books of GS, or you were doing something extra to sharpen your depth of your writing?
You mean specifically in essay, sir?
Essay obviously, yes.
Depth of my, that's actually a very good question, because that depth is what differentiates your essay from others, because everyone will write and philosophical essay, will attempt it.
Correct.
Sir, I think what things I did is, here and there I used to not stop reading good books. For example, Mr. Shashi Tharoor's From Midnight to Millennium and Beyond. It's a book on the India's journey after independence. So I've read that book during my UPSC preparation here and there. So great ideas can come out of it. Yuval Noah Harari's
yes.
So some interesting ideas can come out of it, which will help you develop a sense of depth in your writing. Like just to give you an example, sir, this time the essay that I attempted, philosophical essay, the title of the essay was the process of self-discovery is technologically outsourced. So I started my essay with this thing that since the dawn of civilization, man has looked up to the heavens and dreamt. At first, he dreamt about the stars. Then he dreamt about himself, and now he tries to explore his mind. Then I went on to the essay. I felt it was a beautiful way of starting an essay. But like you said, sir, very correctly, that there are other ways also, like quotations, some statistics, because sometimes it gets hard to come out with points. So you can sort of take the GS approach, but in a very abstract sort of a way, that women empowerment is something that is, just as an example, women empowerment is something that is still a lot of work needs to be done. So it's like a battle, losing the battle but winning the bigger war against women disenfranchisement or women problems. So some such value additions, like interesting titles, interesting subheadings, interesting statistics, interesting philosophies of people. So these are the things which can add value addition, because apart from that, it's very hard for me to formulate an answer in this short time. But I would say it's the here and there value additions and keeping a broad mind. I think that is dhire what is going on is UPSC is also expecting people not to be the bookish, bookworm sort of people. Here and there also topics you need to understand and appreciate. Otherwise, because the entire full personality development otherwise won't happen in this exam. That's required. After you clear the interview, you come to the service, you can't be a bookworm and get away with it. So I think this is one way. This time the essay paper was such that it was a reflection of your personality, because it was sort of unprepared for everyone. वो जो पुराने strategies है कि हम political, economic, social, technological वो aspect से लिखेंगे and we'll take that approach, वो सब काम तो ज़्यादा किया नहीं. It was just about basic expression and personality came out. So I really loved the essay paper this time.
Good. अच्छा अभिजीत, आप इतने अच्छे जॉब में थे और पेमेंट भी अच्छी थी आपकी, कैसे IAS डिसाइड कर लिया सिविल्स देना चाहिए? अनप्रेडिक्टेबल रेल में कूद गए आप.
Sir, when I joined my job in 2016, I had zero intentions, in fact negative intentions towards civil services or government job. It was a combination of circumstances that led me here, or that why I'm sitting in front of you today. It's my manager, Mr. Prem Kumar Vadapalli. He was my manager in Texas Instruments. He was a lot into social service. So he used to organize blood donation camps and everything. He was very much into that. That indirectly rubbed off on me, and I was very close to him as a manager and mentee sort of a relationship. And right from day one, he knew that I was preparing. So that was one thing, his social service knack. Secondly, sir, CSR activities of Texas Instruments are very famous, at least in that sort of sector. So TI does this thing called Back to School program, where it goes to various corners, nook and corners of Karnataka and gives out books and everything. I had privilege to travel to a lot of places of Karnataka. In fact, I met a district collector very briefly once in one of the visits. So that rubbed off on me. Secondly, now that I look back, my father is in medical administration. He was the chief medical officer of Darjeeling for a long time. So that atmosphere of administration, the ability to see that if someone is in administration, he or she has the power to make positive change if he or she wants. That rubbed off on me. So I think these three circumstances put together slowly pushed me towards this. Now when I look back how the circumstances played one after the other, COVID happened with 2 times again, which gave me 4 extra months each attempt.
Right.
Then a lot of other factors. Now it seems that somewhere it was written that it has to happen. Otherwise, it's very hard for me to explain how I ended up here.
Right.
It's just a strange journey for me.
Great. अच्छा अभिजीत, एक बात बताइए, बच्चे प्रीलिम्स की तैयारी, सिविल्स की तैयारी शुरू करते हैं, कई साल लग जाते हैं, प्रीलिम्स नहीं निकलता.
मेरा भी नहीं निकला था सर पहले अटेम्प्ट.
Right. So it is highly unpredictable.
Very.
So would you suggest any strategy so that we can bring down that unpredictability part of prelims examination, or there is a strategy? और या आपको लगता है, if you reflect upon your first 2 attempts, कि इस वजह से मेरा prelims नहीं निकला था, बच्चे अगर इस गलती को ना करें तो they can crack it in their first attempt or second attempt?
Briefly speaking, sir, not focusing on revision.
Okay.
Number 1. Number 2, keeping my sources too much, doing from here and there, suffering from the fear of missing out syndrome. कि मेरा दोस्त तो ये इस बुक से पढ़ रहा है, यार मैं तो नहीं पढ़ रहा, इससे क्वेश्चन आ गया तो क्या होगा. इसके वजह से what happens is you end up reading so much material, you spend less time on consolidation and revision, which is very important.
Right.
Not practicing mock test, very important. Mock test से क्या होता है sir, you are able to figure out how what is your accuracy. Like I always used to attempt 94 to 95 questions. It was sort of a superstition. इससे ज़्यादा करूँगा कम होगा, इससे एक क्वेश्चन कम करूँगा तो अच्छा नहीं जाएगा पेपर. एक superstition type बन गया था. उसमें I knew that if a UPSC level question paper is there, standard mock test full length paper is there, and if I attempt with my level of accuracy with 95 questions, I'll do around 70 correct, and that was my deal.
Right.
140 positive, negative भी 20 हुआ तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. Not being sentimental in this कि मतलब मुझे best नहीं करना prelims में.
Right.
Just I need to clear the cutoff. That's it. मतलब with some comfort zone I need to clear the cutoff. That's it. मतलब no need to get sentimental about things.
Right.
I need to be the best. And also sir, while solving the paper, not bowing down to pressure, practicing not bowing down to pressure. Yoga करना था, because these are indirect things which indirectly help.
Right.
मैंने कभी किया नहीं है योगा. मतलब I was never that determined or dedicated कि योगा भी करूँगा. But I know of people who have got help because of this. And exam में सर होता है, because exam prelims इतना unpredictable है. Just before the first, like last week before prelims, the uncertainty level in your mind is at its peak.
Right.
होगा कि नहीं, इतना पढ़ा तब भी नहीं हुआ तो क्या होगा, पूरा 1 साल waste हो जाएगा. So keeping a calm mind in this, I think that would be the strategy overall. There is no hard and fast strategy.
Correct.
This is golden thing that works. There is nothing like that. It's just that everyone has to find their own. Practice is very important, I would say. What I used to do was a little extreme, that I used to switch off my fan in my room. I used to open the door so that outside noise comes in. I used to sit down, and in that sweat wala thing, environment ki I'm all sweating, I used to attempt like prelims question paper, because normally prelims exams are in government schools,
right,
where half of the time the chairs are very bad. Now I'm in administration, I have to improve these things, but half of the times the benches are bad, they are rusted, the fan is not working, there is too much noise from outside, some function is happening, some function is happening some other building, and the entire noise is coming. So you have to prepare yourself to sit in that stressed situation. Already you are stressed out. In that situation, sit down and do a 2-hour paper with the calmest of mind. That is how you should practice it.
Right. Beautiful, brilliant. अच्छा अभिजीत, एक बात बताएं कि सिविल सर्विसेज स्टूडेंट्स जो खास करके रूरल बैकग्राउंड से आते हैं, मुझे पर्सनली बहुत बच्चे मिले कि सर आई वांट टू फोकस ऑन प्रीलिम्स एग्जामिनेशन. प्रीलिम्स पहले निकल जाएगा, फिर तो देखेंगे मेंस प्रीलिम्स ही नहीं होगा तो क्या होगा.
थोड़ा गड़बड़ अप्रोच है वैसे.
क्या अप्रोच होना चाहिए
सर? इंटीग्रेटेड अप्रोच होना चाहिए. मैंने ये गलती किया था सर फर्स्ट 2 अटेम्प्ट्स में कि प्रीलिम्स निकल जाए, क्योंकि वैसे ही निकल नहीं रहा था. बट आई अंडरस्टैंड इट्स वेरी हार्ड टू लाइक like focus on both and think that prelims ke baad bhi there is one approach, so I need to start from. But if I have to give some advice right now, in my humble opinion, sir, I think it is very important to integrate your studies with prelims and mains.
Right.
Because in the 3 months before mains, after prelims, there is no time that you learn new things.
Correct.
Anyways, you have a lot of things. There are 7 papers which you need to practice, out of which 2 are expert level papers, optional. You have to practice a lot. And each paper, essay is different, GS 1, 2, 3, 4, the approach is different, your strategy will be different, because your strategy will be your personalized approach. And practice is very, very, very important, answer writing practice. So ये सब करने में ही 3 महीना चला जाएगा सर. तो नया चीज आप कहाँ पढ़ेंगे? वो नया आपको पहले से ही पढ़ के रखना है. आंसर राइटिंग प्रैक्टिस आपको एक लेवल तक लेके आने के बाद ही आपको मेंस प्रीलिम्स में बैठना है, ताकि 3 महीने में यू कैन, बिकॉज द बेसिक थिंग इज no hiccups and no surprises should come in those 3 months. It should be routine, ki practice, revise. That's why, sir, integrated approach is very important.
Very important.
If you ask me what is different that I did my first 2 versus the last 2 approach, it is this. In my 4th attempt, that is what I perfected, the integrated approach.
Okay.
And in my last 3 months before main, there was 82 days or something, very less amount of days. Normally this time it's 100 days. I only practiced and revised. It's very, very less new things that I studied, including my optional. Everything I had prepared early on. हाँ, मतलब to be very honest, I had the privilege कि उससे पहले I had 3 failures because of which I had a lot of time. But if you even are taking the first attempt, you would have prepared for the for some time before that, right? So I think keeping that idea that I need to take an integrated approach is very important.
Important, right? अच्छा, what is the ideal phase? जैसे अभी आपने तो जॉब से रिजाइन किया 2 अटेम्प्ट के बाद, then you started preparing seriously, right? सो अभी मैं अगर सोचता हूँ सिविल सर्विसेज का, मान लीजिए आई एम इन 10th और 12th क्लास, मेरे अंदर ऐसा ही कुछ ट्रिगर कर जाता है. सो फॉर मी व्हाट वुड यू सजेस्ट? आफ्टर ग्रेजुएशन शुड आई स्टार्ट? ड्यूरिंग ग्रेजुएशन शुड आई स्टार्ट? व्हाट इज द राइट आइडियल फेज इफ टू स्टार्ट माय सिविल सर्विसेज प्रिपरेशन? क्योंकि 1-1.5 साल तो लग ही जाते हैं, सिलेबस इतना बड़ा है.
1.5 साल 2 साल लग जाते हैं. मैंने गलती ये किया था कि आई स्टार्टेड माई प्रिपरेशन, आई स्टार्टेड गिविंग द एग्जाम. इसलिए मतलब आई फिल द फॉर्म इन February एंड आई स्टार्ट इन जून. मतलब प्रिपरेशन भी 1-2 महीने का ही था. बट हाँ, यू आर राइट, इट टेक्स 1.5 years or 2 years of serious preparation before you are UPSC worthy.
Right.
So, sir, I think there is not, even if you are in class 11th or 12th, there is nothing stopping us from reading the newspaper, developing the habit of reading the newspaper, or being मतलब taking extra effort to appreciate what is going on around us, trying to interconnect it with our real lives. ये सब चीजें तो हम class 10th, 11th, 12th में कर ही सकते हैं. मतलब हाँ ठीक है, not with that much maturity and depth, but we can take our elders' help. We can at least start thinking in those lines, that as a responsible Indian, how would you think? What you should have a balanced approach towards things. You cannot unilaterally blame one party or something, blame one side of the story and everything. So these things always you can start preparation, but I think if someone wants to give just out of college, because I think graduation is mandatory, ना, तो I think sir 2nd year, 3rd year would be a very good time to start preparation, because college थोड़ा सा chill भी रहता है.
हाँ, correct.
And once you get a job, you get placed, then और भी chill हो जाता है थोड़ा सा scene. तो then you can full on dedicate. I know a lot of friends who have done that. So that thing you can always do, but it's very important कि you do it at your own क्या बोलूँगा सर, विल पावर rather than someone else's pushing.
Right.
That is very important. I know of people whose parents push them and they are forced into preparing. That never works, sir. I mean, that may push you for 1 year, but first of all, you will not be happy even if you clear this exam with someone else's push, because you have to sustain 30 years of your service after that, and you have to do it with dedication, serve your country. So it has to come from within, sir, because this is one exam that has to come from within. Otherwise, it's such a long journey. It's very difficult.
Good. अच्छा अभिजीत, अब आप बिल्कुल सही पोजीशन में हैं एनालाइज करने के लिए, क्योंकि सिलेबस बहुत बड़ा है, समय 24 घंटे हैं. हाउ डिड यू मैनेज और प्रिपेयर योर शेड्यूल कि हम सिलेबस को कैसे खत्म करें? व्हाट वाज योर टाइम मैनेजमेंट टू cope up with the challenge of this vastness of this UPSC IAS syllabus?
Sir, first thing that comes to my mind is I tried very hard to ensure that first of all I don't study anything new because mains is the big game. Prelims is irrelevant. After you clear it, it's irrelevant. Those 3 months before mains, nothing new I study. That's number one. Secondly, sir, I strongly believe, and this is through my 3 failures, that you should work very, very hard in the initial days to create the best possible notes. You study from 3-4 sources. You work very hard to research what are the sources that you need. You see YouTube, you see some lectures. You create the best possible notes. But you work very hard after that to come out of that note-making cycle and get into the revision and practice cycle. Because that is what will actually help you clear this exam. And sir, like I was saying, integrated approach, that should stop 2 months before prelims. Before 2 months before prelims, it should be only prelims. Because prelims is not easy anyways, and it's very unpredictable.
Right.
So prelims you need enough amount of effort and practice. This is such a beautiful exam that one of the most difficult stages of this exam is the most irrelevant. There are so many ways in which this exam is different from other exams, and it's beautiful also. It teaches or tests all the capabilities that a civil servant would need. Perseverance, dedication, balance, good personality, everything is tested in this exam in some way or the other.
Great.
So sir, you were asking about time management and strategy. Coming into the main prelims mode before prelims, 2 months before prelims, full prelims. Then in the 3 months before mains, only practicing and revising. Focusing a lot on answer writing, because what I've seen is that if you do your answer writing part correctly, a lot of other things fall into place. You know that this is where I'm lacking. You work hard only in that, rather than you are constantly trying to read and improve your quality but not focusing on answer writing. That doesn't help. That is one mistake that I made in my third attempt. Because my third attempt, anthropology, I was under the false impression that first of all, if you write like a generalist, you will pass. That I always used to think, which is wrong. And secondly, sir, I thought that I am so awesome that in the 3 months before mains, I'll be able to study new things and I'll clear it, anthropology. I had left a huge portion of my syllabus कि 3 months में मैं तो कर लूँगा. हुआ नहीं सर, क्योंकि वैसे ही इतना कुछ पढ़ना होता है. That is the difference in my third and fourth attempt.
Good.
So that would be, sir, my strategy.
अच्छा, मैं आपका जूनियर हूँ दार्जिलिंग में. मैंने आपकी सफलता की स्टोरी सुनी. अब आई एम गेटिंग दैट इनर मोटिवेशन. मुझे भी अभिजीत बनना है और 23 में या 24 में मुझे भी रैंक 50 लाना है. बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स आपको सुनेंगे, उनकी भी सेम इंस्पिरेशन होगी, और खास करके जितना कैंडिड कॉन्वर्सेशन आप कर रहे हैं तो और इंस्पायरिंग होगा. What would be your message to those all aspirants who are watching your lakhs and lakhs of people who are watching your video, who are preparing for this examination or who are planning to prepare? क्या होगा मैसेज आपका उनके लिए?
सर, मैं तो यही कहूँगा कि फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट यू हैव योर रीजन व्हाई यू वांट टू गेट इनटू द सर्विसेज क्रिस्टल क्लियर इन योर माइंड बिफोर यू टेक दिस लीप ऑफ फेथ, बिकॉज इट इज अ लीप ऑफ फेथ. देयर इज नो गारंटी दैट इवन विथ ऑल द एफर्ट यू आर गोइंग टू मेक इट, बिकॉज दिस एग्जाम इज लाइक दैट, अनफॉर्चुनेटली और फॉर्चुनेटली. It makes you a very different person from what you are when you have started this preparation. So that's number one, having a very, very clear idea why you want to get into the service. Secondly, focus on building a good support system around you, because this is something that we normally tend to miss out on, that we are so involved in studies that we forget that there is your parents, your very close friends who will actually pull you up or push you up when you are in your lows, because I can guarantee you this, you will have more lows than highs in this exam. There'll be most number of days when you'll feel that मेरा तो कुछ नहीं होने वाला है, and then there'll be very few days when you'll actually think that if I do it right, I can get a good rank. So the lows and ups you need to manage, and your support system is very, very important. So invest on that. But that being said, take out the negativity from your life. Stay away from social media. Social media you don't need, except YouTube to study things, or Telegram very sparingly. Apart from that, Instagram, Twitter, and other users of social media, Facebook, these are not necessary for you. You can do that a lot afterwards. Don't worry, you'll have a lot of time to invest in social media. I think these three, and also try to stay positive, because and try to manage your mental health also. Don't neglect your mental health, your physical health. I made a mistake that I spent around 2 years in sedentary lifestyle at home, just studying. I focused very less on physical fitness, and now I'm able to understand that. Now I'll go to Lavasana in a few months, and over there you have to wake up at 5:30 and do physical training. So I'm scared. So I'm thinking of buying stuff and getting into the running mode and getting fit. Don't make that mistake. I mean, you focus on studies most importantly, but focus on your physical health also, because health is wealth. I think that would be my advice. Don't take this exam too seriously, because at the end of the day, it's a part of life. It's not the heart of life. Even if you don't clear it, doesn't mean that you are bad or there is something lacking in you. A lot of people won't be able to clear this exam, but that doesn't mean that you are deficient in any way. There are many people who have entered the civil services who are not happy. There are many people who are outside civil services who are very happy, who are doing extremely successful. So this is not the end of the world. So that's it. I mean, that would be my advice, because education and strategy and everything, we've talked a lot, but these are small things that we sort of miss out on, which we hardly talk about, but these are very important. So that would be my advice.
अच्छा अभिजीत, एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन है आपसे कि आपके मार्कशीट में बड़े अच्छे मार्क्स आपके आए हैं, पेपर 3 एक वीकनेस रही है. सो अभी आप बैठ के अगर आप रिफ्लेक्ट करें उस दिन जिस दिन पेपर 3 का एग्जाम हुआ था, तो आपको क्या लगता है क्या मिस्टेक हुई होगी?
सर, पेपर मुझे थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट लगा था फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, बट सर दैट वुड बी एन एक्सक्यूज टू से, बिकॉज मेरा प्रिपरेशन भी उतना अच्छा नहीं था GS3 में. And in prelims also, economics part was something that, of course, I studied. I tried to study very well, but comparatively, relative to others, it was my weakest. And that reflected in my GS3 mains also. I would say a little mistake in dedicating enough amount of time would be the mistake in GS3. Because GS3 में there was questions like 2015 या 2013 में GDP calculation का change क्या हुआ, these questions. Then paper भी difficult था in the sense that blue LEDs के ऊपर question था. But I think that would be an excuse that I would be giving myself, because there are people who've got more than 100 in this paper. I would say I made a mistake in GS3, and that's why I keep telling that मेरे GS3 notes को मत follow करना कोई, especially economics वाला part. So yeah, sir, that would be, it was my lacking on my end that got me that 77 out of 250, which is the lowest among the other papers, sir.
Great. Thank you, Abhijit. Thank you so very much.
Sir, it was my pleasure, sir.
Thank you. So it was a very enlightening and candid and beautiful conversation with All India Rank 50, Mr. Abhijit Ray. He talked about various dimensions of this examination. And frankly speaking, if I had to prepare after this conversation, I find the journey very smooth and very clear. He talked about the importance of revision, consolidation, giving mock tests, practice tests under UPSC circumstances. He used to switch off his fan, open his window, just to create that atmosphere. So it was a very beautiful discussion. He talked about how to select an optional paper, how to create an extraordinary essay. He has a very brilliant marks in essay paper. So preparation should be integrated. It should not be segregated. And the most important part, he said, UPSC or IAS is a part of life, not the heart of life. That summarizes everything an aspirant should have. And there should be some inner motivation that will only generate that kind of perseverance, because you will require 1.5 years at least to clear this examination. It was his 4th attempt, but he never gave up. He decided to give up, but after watching a video of a topper, he decided against it. So it was a very enlightening discussion. Thank you, Abhijit. Thank you so very much for coming to BYJU'S Exam Prep Spotlight. Thank you.
Sir.